Welcome back to the Seven Sins Modern Man podcast. This is part 2 of Wrath. Now that we've answered all those questions from our two fans.
They were great questions as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. So, shout out to Elliot and to Dylan. So, much appreciated.
You shouldn't name drop them. They might get,
Okay, well, sorry. But I didn't give last names. No one can find you. So now I think what I wanted to go on to, now we've kind of covered the micro, like our personal lives and our personal, how anger and wrath has touched us. Now I guess we need to look at the human society, like the broader implications. So I think there's a little preface we just want to do first.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go into themes of human conflict and war and stuff like that and hatred of otherness. I kind of want to make sure that people understand that there's a lot of very dark things going on in the world right now.
Like
and
currently.
Very currently. Like, for example, like in particular, like the Hong Kong protests and the Black Lives Matter movement here and abroad, particularly in America. And Jack just wants to sort of just cover something just so we get kind of, our stance on it, I guess.
Yeah, because it's a difficult thing to talk about without being misconstrued sometimes, and regardless of what you say, I think there's always going to be someone out there that disagrees fundamentally with what you're saying, whether or not you're on the right or wrong side. And Eat Lit Food, who's like this Instagrammer who takes awesome photos of food, and he's a cool guy, and he posted this thing on his story on Instagram the other day. He wrote, "My platform is predominantly used for food, and if you want an official political statement, I simply am not qualified to give one. There are real activists, intellectuals, political figures, and commentators who have dedicated their whole careers on educating themselves about the history, ideologies, statistics, and familiarize themselves with all of the debates pertaining to all of the social issues we are seeing unfold today." And I think that's right. Like, we're just two dudes sitting in a fucking room having a yarn about some shit that we thought of.
Yeah, and I think it's a very tough time for a lot of people, especially with, like the COVID crisis as well.
Yeah, shit.
So I think going into this topic, we're not going to talk about those things right now. And we're going to talk more kind of broadly about the past a little bit more, and historically in the future. We're probably not going to touch current affairs too much. I think there's enough people that are more qualified to talk about than us.
Yeah, and you can get that. You can get, if you want some random cunt's opinion, just open up Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't mean that as being dismissive.
Yeah, and also it's a little bit of a warning too that if we do talk about anything like distressing, hopefully that's not going to affect people personally, because we are going to probably talk about war.
But I think as well we're open to we're open to discourse. Like if someone comes back and goes, "Hey, I think you shouldn't have said this, and this is why,"
yeah,
that's great. But if you get someone just ranting that you're wrong and dumb and fucked,
I'm open to someone going "fuck you, dickhead" on the comments. But
I'd love to see that actually.
I'd love to see that. But I think if you have any criticism or you have any things that you want to touch on in the comments, we did ask for feedback and for questions and answers before the session. And after the session as well, for next episode, it'd be good to have any feedback. And that's broadly about the podcast too. Like, I really hated how long it was, or I really hated how short it was, or whatever it is.
Jack's nasally tone.
I hate how he says words wrong.
Yeah, never get him back.
I feel like I'm more nasal.
Shame fuckers, I'm coming back for another one.
So, looking at wrath from a broad societal sense. Something you and I have definitely touched on a lot already is war. War is something that has fucking afflicted humanity since like the two rocks was hit together,
Yeah.
It's something
since the dawn of time almost.
And I feel like it won't end ever. Like I feel like next it'll be planetary resources.
The problem is to jump straight fucking into it, war is money now. War is an industry. Like war is, people make so much money from war.
Yeah, the military.
How much does it cost to kit out like one infantry man in the US fighting force? Wow, what a terrible fucking sentence.
But I guess you get that analogy in Generation Kill, we are highly
tuned Ferraris
thrown into a desert.
But what is it? It's still something
it's
ridiculous.
I swear if you include training, it's like $1 million or more.
But just like the outfit,
$16K minimum.
Yeah, probably. $18,000 or something per soldier
cost from like Colton Armorlight and
just
fucking whoever else.
Like it's an industry. War is an industry now, and it's. I'd almost liken it to things like sex work, where it's like it's an industry that's a bit taboo and a bit like people don't fully understand it and it's frowned upon. Like people still currently...
It's the dark underbelly of humanity.
Yeah,
it's conflict and sex.
And the great thing about war is that people view it as, or the way that it's portrayed is that people go out and they're brave and they fight for their country and freedom and things like that. And I believe that that's not true, but the underbelly of it is just the fact that there's so much fucking money changing hands.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you also get the counterpoint to that. You go out and you fight for your country, you lose a limb thinking you are doing this patriotic thing, and some fucking person at home who didn't fight tells you you're a baby killer.
Yeah,
I think there's
the
two
Vietnam
sides.
War.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think the people who are... It's removed from people who are actually in the military and people that went and fought and sacrificed and died. Like, I think of, like, our fathers' fathers who died on the beaches of Normandy trying to invade Europe to give us a better life and to stop the clutches of evil.
Yeah,
that
fascism and evil.
Yeah, and like them, I have nothing but the utmost respect for people that dedicate their lives to the servitude and the protection of others. Not for a second do I
think we understand it, we're respectful of it, but fundamentally you and I have never fought in a war.
No.
We've never been part of a military force.
Nope.
So I think we are going from a place of naivete, but we are very interested in those topics.
Yeah, and
so it's something that's
we've done. I mean, again, nothing compares to actually going and fighting and being there.
Yeah.
But like, I think as far as education goes, we've done a lot of research. We've watched a lot of documentaries, like the Ken Burns
read a
ones.
lot of books,
I
talked
mean,
to a lot of people. For
God's sake, if I'm ever bored and I don't know what to watch, I'm like, World War II in colour. I'll watch that for the 50th fucking time, you know. And it's like I feel like I'm always learning something, and it's something that, again, like the Eat Lit Food post, there are people out there that have dedicated their whole careers to understanding this, and it's just all I do is have a knowledge that there's so much more that I don't understand.
Thematically, the reason we wanted to talk about it is it's something that calls to all men, and I don't mean to put aside the opinions or put aside the struggles of like women in this field at all, because there's definitely been women in war for sure, and
women
all
that
facets
join
of
the military
war.
are brave as fuck.
It's fucking 50% of the world, right? But I this podcast is targeted at I'm a dude, and my guests are probably going to be dudes for the vast majority. And it's something I just wanted to target that side of my psyche. So again, there definitely is a lot of contributions by women to fighting forces and lots of fields around the world.
The First World War, right?
Yeah.
On the front line, the Eastern Front, were there any women in the trenches? There weren't, really.
Yeah. I mean, if there was, like
400 metres behind the front line,
yeah,
women in the hospitals.
Yeah.
Like, women went and fought. Like, they didn't fight, but women went and served and died on just behind the front line to man those hospitals, and men went and died in the mud of like Flanders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that one is better than the other, but
it's even down to something at its core. Like we were talking about the other day, it's like fundamentally you sit down with your partner and like sometimes they just don't want to watch a war movie, and like I think guys are like we're drawn to conflict in just such a different way.
Yeah,
and that's not just again broad generalization here.
It's very hard to have this discussion without
feeling like you're gonna fucking hurt someone's feelings.
Well, just having to like always go back and be like, we're not being sexist, we're not being racist, we're not being like.
And just someone we will be. Someone, no matter what we say, so someone we will be being fucking not acknowledging the right people. And that's not what this is about. This is more about just focusing on what we want to talk about. It's my podcast. Do what I want. That's my wrath. So yeah,
what's your thought?
This is my thought. But yeah, basically, I think it's just something that men are drawn to, man. Like, we like fighting, just fundamentally. Like, we like watching fucking Apocalypse Now. We like making beef jerky.
Shit with the door open.
Yeah.
Riverboat gambling trips.
I definitely, all through my life, you know, I grew up, I'm named after Sergio Leone, like the director of the fucking Dollars trilogy. So I, like, grew up watching cowboy films.
He's the guy that did Backdoor Sluts 9, eh?
Yeah. The very same. Those long panning shots. Ennio Morricone scored the moans.
Oh, beautiful.
But yeah, like I grew up watching Guns.
Apparently, Nolan and Hans Zimmer are tipped to do the next one. But anyway,
but that's a good point. Dunkirk. You know, you and I watched Dunkirk together.
I think I've watched Dunkirk nearly as many times as I've watched Step Brothers. No, I haven't. Cause it hasn't been out as long. But
okay, Step Brothers, the quintessential war movie. It's a war between brothers.
Yeah.
What's more masculine?
It's a war of love.
What's more masculine than that? But
Beers?
I think there's just something about it. Like, there's the call to it. I mean, even now, like, I got pretty close to joining the NZ Army because I wanted to do gunsmithing. So I was like, what's a good path? Armory, you know, like... But, like, I'm obviously just a fat nerd, so... but
it's almost romanticized, like Dunkirk.
Oh, for sure.
Dunkirk was done in an amazing way, and I think the movie is fantastic. But when you look at photos of the beaches at Dunkirk, they weren't these vast, sprawling, open expanses with dudes in lines.
15 dudes in a line.
It was like, it was like confusion. It was like
Panic,
people dying, abandoned machinery, like people getting shot at, strafed, bombed by like the Luftwaffe. Like it wasn't this beautiful expanse. But the way that... It was Nolan, right? Yeah, the way that Nolan portrays it is like... It's shot in a gorgeous way. And it's hard not to be... I think it's weird. I don't know how you feel, but when I watched Dunkirk, I was like...
For me it's watching like Band of Brothers and Generation Kill, man. Like, every time it's like... I definitely feel camaraderie towards a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And I definitely haven't been through the same struggles. Like... You know, we've been down to Countdown and some durries. You know, we haven't.
I had to
wait
in traffic today.
Yeah, we didn't freeze our feet off in the Eastern Front.
Yeah, and get shot to fuck in the bush.
But like, you know, it's just interesting. There's something about it that's the friendship and like taking fire and like for me the firearms, man. Like something about the smell of cordite and brass tinkling. This is something that's so romantic to me. And again, like that's from my perspective of loving the mechanics behind firearms. And that's another topic that's like wrath. Like it's hard to equate the beauty and the romanticism of war with the hatred and the blood and the misery and how horrific it really is.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. You know, like during the Second World War, and I mean even to an extent, most wars, both before and after, there was this real sense of like, I mean, in the First World War, for fuck's sake, the first Christmas, they like put down their weapons and they went and like hugged and danced and ate and were drinking with the Germans. You know, like, I mean, there was this sense of like, we're doing what we have to do for our country.
Well, look at Europe as is now, as it was then. As like it's fundamentally the same families. I mean, like, and in Europe now you can get, you know, I don't know about now with COVID, but you know, during the Eurosphere, you could get, you know, a train to Germany and go see like, you know Berlin and then go to Italy, and it's all very interconnected. And back at the turn of the century, it was definitely like intermarried families, and your cousin was German, and like your mate was from France, and it's odd that such a huge conflict brewed out of this closeness.
I think what I was touching on more was like there wasn't hatred, and I think wrath stems from that hatred and that anger. But I mean, like, even the Korean War, there wasn't really the hate. Like, they hated the conditions and they hated fucking being there. But Vietnam...
Do you mean the American
Yeah, the
forces?
American forces.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I don't think they really... I mean, I'm sure there's people that were like, I hated the Koreans, but like...
Well, the South and North Korea thing's interesting. Like, I wonder how, like, because fundamentally you got members of the same fucking family on both sides of the DMZ.
Yeah.
It must be such a weird thing to...
It's and I think half the problem is it's
them.
shrouded in so much mystery.
Yeah.
That it's like, I mean, is Kim Jong even still alive? Who knows? You know?
Yeah.
But I think what I was trying to touch on is just like Vietnam. Again, you watch that Ken Burns documentary and like they're like, or in Apocalypse Now, where he's like, I love the smell of napalm in the morning, and they talk about these fucking horrific scenes of like kids with that song, Napalm Sticks to Kids.
Yeah,
and it's like,
I was about to bring that up. Actually.
It's just fucking...
It's harrowing.
It is, and it's disgusting and horrific. And there's this great song at the end of Danger Close talking about this guy who's 19 and he goes to fight.
Christ, I was only 19.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And there's the line like, why is it the Channel 7 helicopter chills me to the bone? And it's like, because that's PTSD. That's real PTSD from a war that you fought. And I think... in Vietnam, they hated the Vietnamese and the Viet Cong because
that's
the Americans
sucks, man. Like you're trained. I think fundamentally a lot of these forces on the macro level, like the higher up, the high commands, you need your soldiers to hate the enemy.
But I wonder
to rationalize the fucking mass murder.
Well, I wonder if that's the whole thing. Is that like a lot of these people had fathers and grandfathers, and I mean even some of them had fought in the Second World War and the First World War, or maybe not in the First World War that fought in Vietnam, but you know. And they were like, fuck war. War's dumb. And I mean, the peace movements, like the hippie movements that were going on. I mean, it was the summer of '69, for fuck's sake.
The counterculture,
it's
like throwback, yeah.
they have to be as aggressive or as... Is it right wing? Yeah, like peaceful, don't go to war is left wing, right? You know,
Yeah, I guess
it's
like
more
belief.
left leaning.
That's progressive, yeah.
Whereas like maybe
Pro-war, anti-war.
the pro-war thing
Yeah.
is more conservative and right wing. And
But you look at like Nixon, and you don't really see him as a progressive or a left wing.
no,
You
not
see the people
really.
that were perpetuating like McNamara and stuff as.
But
very-
that's what I mean is like maybe the
Right-wing.
whole thing is they were fed into this belief of like if you hate the Vietnamese, you'll fight better. You'll think that everyone at home that's saying war's bad is a pussy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what happened. Like a lot of the soldiers that came back were persecuted and were called baby killers. But then, like on the flip side, they were like the people that didn't fight are fucking pussies.
Yeah, it's like us versus them extends not just to the enemy but to civilians.
Yeah.
I think like we can talk about it, and then there's probably like army guys. So like an army guy listening to this will be like, "Well, you don't fucking know," you know. And
you're right. You know what?
you're right, we don't. You know. But
Purely,
like
it's almost purely theory.
my uncle and my dad had made a documentary about New Zealand's contribution during Vietnam from the 90s, and I was watching that recently, and that was really interesting. Like my uncle was telling me how hard it was to get New Zealand veterans to talk about Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because they suffered such persecution when they got home that like New Zealand almost downplayed how involved we were, and yet we it's
We were
like,
one of the major combatants in that war.
Yeah, like Australia, New Zealand.
I mean, look at like even in Band of Brothers, there's those scenes in the beginning where they talk to the veterans. There's this bit where the guys like, you know, four of the kids in our town were, or three of the kids in our town were listed as 4F, which is like unfit to fight, and they killed themselves.
Yeah.
They weren't able to go to war, so they killed themselves. And, like,
That
in the
patriotic drive is
First World War, where they were given like white feathers, like women would walk up to men in the street and be like, "Here's a white feather, you fucking pussy."
like you coward, yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't say you fucking pussy, especially not in like 1914, but you know, it was implied. And I watched it when I read this great book called Engineman of the GWR, and it's about like a train driver, like a guy who works on the railway, and he worked through the First and Second World War, and
During the War Department stuff.
Second World War, and he was harassed in the street by people who were like, "Why aren't you all fighting?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Because I have to run the fucking. What do you mean? I have to run the trains, like, you know."
I think that is something that's fundamentally different now about modern war. Do you think if there was another, Iraq situation, let's say, I don't want to pick a country for war, but
let's say Australia.
Okay, let's say there's a ground invasion of Australia, and like the call was out to like.
Do you reckon we'd be the emus?
I don't know, but like I don't think society would be like cool with it. I don't think society would be like, "Oh, you're a coward for not going." They'd be like, "Good, don't perpetuate war." Like I feel like New Zealand is a good example because we are relatively progressive as a whole.
Yeah, I mean,
we're pretty centrist even at our right. Like
I
our most
think
right wing is
we've had this discussion a lot. Like, you know, even our far right is pretty centre left leaning.
Apart from extremists, obviously, in all cases.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I guess it. What it boils down to is, I wonder how much of what we believe, you know, like the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq and like the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East.
Yeah.
How much of what we believe and who we think is right and who we think is wrong
is a business decision?
No, well, how much of that? Well, yeah, I guess how much of that is dictated by the media?
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely have no fucking idea. Like Palestine, the Holy Lands, and things like that. I'm not educated enough to go out and be like, the Israelis
what's happening
are right,
in the West Bank?
or,
yeah,
exactly.
No idea.
I don't know, and
Yeah.
like, I just think that like,
And we probably go into it more than a lot of people, like in terms of like trying to Google it, but like
I just think that like that
deep research googling.
That hatred that's perpetuated by the media and by governments to help people be okay with the fact there's a war that's
something
constantly
that just
burning.
wasn't on the First World War. Like you didn't have cameras on site.
Yeah.
Iraq War, that's the first war we've really
video
had.
phones, people uploading shit to Facebook.
Yeah, Live Leak, like ISIS. Like it was pretty. I remember like definitely my teen years seeing some pretty harrowing stuff on the internet through camera phone
as
footage.
kids that grow up on, well, not kids, as teenagers that grow up on 4chan, it's like
you see some shit, and it's like I don't know, it's something about it, and like we both watched Generation Kill through together, and there's something about that war that's just it's so dense, like urban. I mean, obviously World War II and World War I definitely involved cities and towns, but it was like the fighting man and the populace.
Whereas, like,
modern war is so
they're
intermingled.
fighting the population almost.
Yeah, and like it's scary to think how much power modern munitions have as well against such. I mean, fuck, I hate to say it, but soft targets. Like you look at
humans, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, you look at the billions and billions
just
and
bags of
billions the US and China and Russia will spend, and I mean, obviously other countries as well, on like one aircraft carrier, and then they'll bomb a village and not give a fuck about the human toll. And it's like some guy in the States sitting at a computer console driving like a Predator. Like a Predator, it's like a drone aircraft with missiles. And it's like, it's so odd.
It's actually, do you know what's interesting? That next topic that we've got up there, the hatred of otherness, I almost feel like it ties into that. Like, in America, how many people are scared of, like, and I'm going to sound controversial by saying this, but like Arabs or Muslims or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
especially in a post 9/11 world.
People are fucking terrified of shit that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like, even in New Zealand after the terror attacks,
yeah,
the amount of shit that I saw on Facebook that I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, people that were like, oh, well, that's what happens when you set up a mosque in a country that you're not from. And you're just like, who are you? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, people don't
almost justifying it, like, because of the terrorism in 2001, it's justified now. It's like...
And it's also like, what, people don't deserve to die for being different. I mean...
Yeah. I think everyone deserves an equal opportunity in life, and Wrath...
I hate you for different reasons, but I don't think you should die for...
You get an equal opportunity to suffer my wrath.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's definitely something that's been perpetuated throughout human conflict forever, is the hatred of otherness.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember reading this funny story. I mean, it's kind of funny.
While we're talking about human suffering and death,
about
funny story.
Italian city-states that had a massive war, maybe not massive, but they had a proper like border conflict over a fucking well bucket. Like it was a long-lasting war, and they've got the bucket in a museum now.
Yeah.
And they basically had like people died over this, and it's like I don't know,
the futility of it. Like,
it's like two Italian city-states, like the same people. It's like I don't know. That's getting pretty close. Like we're in the same country, but the idea of statehood and nationhood has definitely changed over the decades and centuries and thousands of years and aeons.
I mean, look at New Zealand, right? Like New Zealand. Yeah. On a global scale right now, we're doing okay. You know, I mean, one case of COVID as we speak that's currently being addressed, like none in the last 2 weeks. You know, like in terms of what's going on a global level, things are okay. But I mean, there's still, and forgive me because I'm really fucking ignorant, and this is a topic that is really tapu to a lot of people, is like the treatment of the Māori people, and when we came and when white people came and colonized here. There's so much to make up for. Like, fuck, we did terrible things, and that's still perpetuated to this day. And, like, racism is still fucking prevalent here. And it's like...
You see some very interesting arguments, though, and, like, it's such a dark rabbit hole where you're like, well, like, why do I have to make up for something generations ago that happened? It's like, well, because the shit's perpetuated now.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
it's not like it's not ongoing.
Yeah, and I think that's to tie it back into Wrath. Like, I can understand why a lot of people are really angry.
Yeah.
Like, not just specifically the Māori people, but like people who are part of those groups and who are like...
I guess that's kind of bringing it around to the overall point we're kind of skirting around is racism. Racism is a form of wrath.
Yeah.
It's a hatred of someone else. Yeah. For, I mean, arguably...
A hatred of people who are innocent.
Yep.
And that's what the deadly sin of wrath is exacting what you see as perverted justice on people who are innocent.
Yep.
But I can see why, people go out and protest about this shit here. Like, the Waitangi stuff. Like it's... Yeah. Again, I feel really like ignorant, not knowing.
I feel like we don't need to go into it too much because like I don't think again it's something that's
they're professionals.
It's almost too close to home,
and I'm certainly not an expert.
Yeah, and it's something that like I don't think we're going to solve through rambling about it.
Well, actually, that's interesting because the next
we're not going to fix racism.
How did they mention that? Like the PM
racism solved 2020.
How do we fix the bad? Well, the next. We kind of already addressed it, but one of the topics was how do we fix or address this? And like, honestly, I don't think you can fix it. And I think in order to address it, you need to keep being like, you need to keep
and not
recognizing
blame
that it's happening.
Blame is a dangerous form of wrath. I feel like going, well, it's their fault is not conductive, and then even going like, oh, well, it's the military-industrial complex. It's like that didn't come out of nowhere. That was people. There's CEOs
It's people who want to make money.
Yeah,
who
and it's but
monopolise
at an
this
individual level, when they're driving their car and picking up their kids from an Ivy League school or whatever these fucking CEOs do, I don't know. I'm not a wealthy man. Whatever they do in their day, do you think they think I'm perpetuating the military-industrial complex and I'm an evil man or an evil woman? No, I reckon they go, I'm providing all these jobs and I'm protecting the national security.
Is it justification? Who knows?
Yeah, like I don't think so. I don't think like I follow Lockheed Martin because I don't know. There's something about the arms industry. You're a nerd. Yeah. But basically, like I never see their posts as being like, we did a war. It's always like, it's downplaying that.
Every time someone dies, we make money.
Yeah, they don't talk about their missiles. They talk about like, our helicopters could be used for healthcare. Like, obviously that's a spin, like a propaganda machine.
Our Apache helicopters with machine guns on the side.
It's a healthy helicopter. Yeah.
We've reduced the output of our diesel from...
Yeah, our emissions are great, and our death-dealing rotor machine.
Yeah. In fine text.
That is what it's like, though.
Good killing.
That's honestly what it's like. It's really bizarre. And, like, social media is another thing that, like, conflict. But, yeah, going back to the future of it is, like, I don't think we will escape our animal aggression and our animal want for war. And I worry that, like, once we get beyond this fucking rock into space, it'll be who gets the moon. It'll be who gets Asteroid 3 covered in titanium. Yeah. You know, who's got the best space shuttle with the most missiles.
I can't wait for Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I'm basically saying.
I saw a great thing that was like, I love it. 2020, they decided for season 6 of Black Mirror, they wouldn't put it on Netflix. They just let us all live it. It's like, imagine the next Star Wars movie is just like reality.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a post this morning where it was like, if aliens turn up above the sky demanding to like blow us up, would we be like, have they released the December content too early, or what's going to happen next month? Yeah, I think there's some dark heart of wrath within all of us, man, woman, you know, soldier, civilian, children. Yeah, like there's something about anger that's a very human thing. I guess that's what all the sins boil down to, though, is they're human. You know, original sin. Humans have sin. Like, we innately hold these dark truths that, like, no one can really avoid.
Well, it's interesting because the next question or next point is, has human wrath been beneficial to our species? And, like, I think it has been, which is really controversial, being like, oh, wow, a bad thing can be good.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it's beneficial in that even in our own experiences, we've been able to reflect and look back and be like, fuck, you know what?
Have we grown from being angry?
Me something and me reacting quickly and angrily and vengefully isn't a good way. Like, it's beneficial in that it shows you what not to do. And not always. Like, I'm sure there are examples of, like, people being like, wrath is good. Like, the project, what was the one called?
The Mossad.
The Mossad thing, you know, like, where it's people could argue, like, yeah, that was good. You should kill people that perpetrate terrorism. I mean, like, look at SEAL Team 6?
SEAL Team 6 going after Bin Laden.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you can argue till the cows come home, did Bin Laden do it? Like,
I guess it's
that's
like,
not the point.
You talk to the guy.
Do you go after dark people?
You talk to the guy that shot Bin Laden, like, you know, the guy that, like, you know, he's got like a really popular Instagram page, weirdly, and so does his wife.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or like, I mean, the whole Chris Kyle thing, or American Sniper.
Yeah.
So it's a sniper. Like,
it's like,
shoots people, you know.
It's like, is it? I don't know. The point you want to argue though is it beneficial to our species? And I think the lessons learned are, but I don't know.
Are we learning the same lesson again and again?
Like, is road rage beneficial? No, not really. Like, I mean, I'm pretty angry when I get behind the wheel sometimes, but like following someone home and beating them with a tire iron is like. It's not beneficial to humankind.
And I don't know, like, sometimes it's like... I
feel like that's going back the other way, back to, like, primate.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're not... We came
I think one of those big parallels is, like, air travel. Like, modern air travel, where we can travel and view these different cultures and learn more about the world, is fundamentally facilitated because of developments made during World War II. I mean, back to space. Space travel... A lot of that rocket technology came from Nazi rocket scientists that were basically expatriated by the US.
America was like, they couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you did some war crimes? You know what? It's like everyone makes mistakes once, but come and help us get to the moon.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say Project HARP that comes to mind for some reason. Space guns or something. I think that was coming from like the V3 project, which was like the successor to the V2 project.
Yeah. Because it was supposed to go into orbit, right?
Yeah, basically a big gun to push into orbit without the whole liquid fuel problems. But that is fundamentally something we need to do, is get out into space and diversify our portfolio, you know. Something hits this rock, you know, we're all on it. So I think, you know, people like Elon Musk are very pro space, and like we wouldn't have space without that. But would we have reached that conclusion without conflict? Without millions and millions of deaths?
I think of the atom bomb and the people that were designing it and building it, and then was it Truman at the time?
Yes.
Was like we're gonna drop it on, or had the decision to be like the tough decision, admittedly, of being like we're gonna drop it on Japan to end the war.
Yeah.
And all the scientists, like all 49 of the scientists, or all 49 of the 50 that were working on the project, signed this petition to be like, if you do this, that's it. Humanity's fucked. Like as soon as you unleash this, it's over. Like that's how.
Once it's out there in the world, it's out there in the world.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's another thing, though. Like the true purest thing we've done as a species towards wrath is the nuclear bomb. It's like such a symbol. The mushroom cloud, the quote from the Hindu scripture about "I'm become death, destroyer of worlds." Like it's such an embodiment of wrath that humanity is devised. It's not a typhoon. It's not nature's wrath.
I guess
it's
just
man's wrath.
to go back to that the definition, which is like perverted justice on the innocent. Like fucking, how many soldiers were in Hiroshima? How many soldiers were in Nagasaki that posed a direct threat to the lives of Americans? And like, don't get me wrong, I completely understand why they did it. Like, fuck, invading Japan would have been, you know, to theorize on it, would have been difficult and deadly. And like, what they did is almost that question of like, when have you done something? What was the question? Can you scroll down?
Yeah.
When have you done something bad to be beneficial?
Yeah, what's the worst thing you've ever done for the right reasons?
There's a great analogy. The atomic bomb. Like, they killed hundreds of thousands of Japanese, millions by the end of it.
Yeah.
With the atomic bombs to save millions of American lives. And then it's like,
But it's interesting. It's interesting. It's not happened again. We're not exactly a restrained species, and yet somehow.
How close have we been though? Like the Cold War.
Yeah,
the missile crises we've had.
Still averted. You know, I say that, and then a nuke goes off tomorrow. It's 2020 after all. I'm sure some horrific
next month
shits.
nukes.
Yeah, but like it's interesting that like a lot of the targets traditionally of the Cold War weren't military targets. A lot of the targets are civilian. And morale, and
I think that's how you hit the hardest, though.
Yeah,
that's wrath, right?
That's wrath.
Is perverted justice towards the innocent. And I know I keep fucking spouting that, but that's what it is.
Mad, that like mutually assured destruction concept.
Yeah,
like if you're gonna fucking kill us, we're gonna fucking kill you, and that's like what nukes were fundamentally designed to do. Yeah, so I think after basically going into that the conflict side of things in terms of humanity, I guess the takeaway we want to kind of build towards an outro with this one is patience. What you were saying before about that being like the opposite.
Yeah, like just it's hard to preach a virtue when I'm an angry, impatient cunt anyway.
But that's the thing, right? It's not coming from someone who is perfect.
Yeah,
it's coming from two guys that know innately we're striving towards that ideal.
Yeah,
we're not quite there yet. And I don't think anyone ever gets there. It's about, what's that thing? It's about the journey, not the destination.
Oh, shut up. It's the destination. The journey is the destination, man.
Yeah, I think that's true though. Like, as much as I hate glib phrases, I certainly spout enough.
Fucking do.
And ultimately showing patience in any situation is the way to curtail anger.
Yeah.
God, I said curtail it 9 times now.
Yeah, you should tell one of the stories that you haven't told before.
Oh my god. But yeah, I think like when you're driving on the road, you can show patience. Like we had that situation earlier just before, but we both got angry at this lady who like didn't let us in to merge. Like you were driving, I was just sitting in the passenger seat, and we didn't let her merge, and we both like went off a bit. But like ultimately, it's like, what's her story?
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah.
She had kids in the car.
There was like a car blocking. We came to the conclusion there was like a car blocking us, so she couldn't have seen me, and then like she kind of couldn't go backwards and couldn't go forwards, and like I was already half out anyway, and then like maybe she was in a rush. Maybe she had to get her kids like a tennis lesson, and it's just like
initially it was like, "Fuck you, you're inconsiderate cunt." Like
it's really easy to jump to that. Like that
Wrath.
anger. Yeah. To be wrathful and be like, I'm gonna fishtail a car and spin her off the road.
Pit maneuver off the road.
Which I never said, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't you tell them. And whereas the reality is probably something far more like, instead of being like, oh, what a stupid bitch. The reality
Maybe
is
she is.
like,
Maybe she's just a really inconsiderate arsehole, but that's not the point. The point is,
maybe
if
she just made a mistake.
If we let go of the anger, we will.
She
be at
doesn't
peace.
give a shit.
Yeah,
she's not in her car.
She will
like,
never listen.
Ha ha! Fuck you.
She's not going to open this podcast and go, "That was me. I was inconsiderate bitch 3." Like, it's never going to happen.
I think we've named 3 inconsiderate people.
No, but like,
you mean her, right?
Yeah. But I think the patience thing is so true at the micro and macro level.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally all the way through to the conflict side of things, be patient around, your fellow man. If you don't understand another culture, get to know them. Go understand them, I remember the mosque here in Wellington frequently does, like, open days full of, like, food.
So you're just going to tell a story about how he went to the mosque open day back in 2015?
I'm going to do my virtue signaling now. No, but I love foreign cuisine.
Yeah.
I think food for me, I mean, obviously I'm a fat dude. But food for me is like, I love food from all cultures. And I think
the only way you expose yourself to that is by exposing yourself to cultures.
Exactly. And like, in music.
Intolerant,
in music from so many different cultures. And like, I think so many cultures, like, especially with music, look at like metal, some of the influence from like Northern European countries, and then like some of the influence from other cultures have changed metal forever. And like, music wouldn't be where it is today without all these different cultures. And I love music and food. And it's like, it's hard to be deeply personally racist if you like cultural things, like movies, music, food.
I've always perpetuated, and goddamn, I know we're treading on thin ice here, I've always perpetuated that, like, I don't care about your sexuality, your creed, your race, none of that. If you're a shit fucking person, then I hate you. Well, I don't hate you, but like, I don't dislike you because of who you are. I hate you because of what you do. Like, if you cut me off in traffic, or if you, like, try and fuck me over by doing something, you could be any number of combination of things, and I don't hate you because of those things. I
don't identify people by those things. It's like, how do you treat your fellow
shit people are shit people, regardless of who or what.
And
they
every
are.
fucking person in the world perpetuates it. And also people are
especially
nuanced. You. I think innately though, the thing is also the patience thing. It's like, I don't think people are one-dimensional. People aren't this evil caricature. I mean, you could argue, like, everyone has good in them, everyone has evil in them.
Well, like, old mate you were talking about before, like, the person that's perpetuating, industrial revolution of mass murder, like, that picks their kid up in a Maybach and goes to an Ivy League school, like, they're probably not, like, a horrific, horrible, disgusting person.
Today I'll bomb
Istanbul. They're not a Bond supervillain. They're just, like, a dude that probably cares about their kids and wants to make money. And
and maybe they do love their employees and strive for, like, good pay brackets. And it's
do you know what's funny? I work for the bank, and I mean, banks are pretty trivial. Like, are they good? Are they evil? You know, but like, I love working. They're great people, and people there care about the people under them. Whether or not you think all banks run by greedy goblins or not, that's up to you.
Yeah,
but like, the people there are what make it a great place to work.
Yeah,
and I work in a pretty difficult department.
I think that's the takeaway from humanity, right? Is like, down at the micro level, when it becomes clans again, like families and communities, I think people can show their best traits.
Yeah,
you
Which
look
is
at
patience, right?
Yeah,
and specifically in this instance, it's patience for other people.
Yeah,
and understanding and tolerance.
Yeah, and it's going, I'm going to let people into my home because they've got a fire's happened.
I never let people in.
No, but like, let's say your neighbour's house burned down.
Traffic.
You might not know them, and you might have to put up with them in your space. But ultimately, you extend their hand.
Yeah.
I think that's also the takeaways to bring back to the. I keep saying I wouldn't do it, and then I've done it like 4 times. Bring it back to the biblical sense, like the Good Samaritan stuff is like the opposite of wrath. It's showing patience towards your fellow man, and then through that, empathy, caring. Those things we should strive towards being.
It makes me think of, like,
better than an animal.
To be topical, like COVID and the way that impacted people. Like, I mean, I saw firsthand through work people that were losing livelihoods and jobs and stuff like that. And the flip side of that were people who were like, I run a butchery, but we, with the meat products that we have that we can't sell or that are going to spoil, we freeze them and give them away. Like
Yeah.
we New Zealand especially were very like. I swear I had more conversations with more people in like more supermarkets and on the street and shit like that during COVID than I ever have before, because everyone was like, "How you doing?"
It brings you back to reality.
thing.
It makes you empathise with your fellow human being
Yeah.
and make you want to reach out. That's what we are. We are a social animal, you know, fundamentally.
We want to talk to each other.
And like, I've definitely been in the line at Countdown when it was huge because of COVID, when we were at lockdown 4.
Yeah.
And like, I wanted to kill the person in front of me. And like, I think there's just definitely like frustration of the process. But then when you sit there and be patient,
It's
everyone's in the
Ratha,
same.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Everyone's in the same boat,
The
though.
person behind you wanted to kill you. It was
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
I was standing there. I was like, "Fuck, Sergio."
Anger is cyclical.
Yeah.
It's like that thing where like bullies are bullied. It almost
Yeah.
is. It almost
Yeah.
is cyclical in a way.
They take it out on the innocent because they had it taken out on them when they were innocent. I think that's like I think we've done
It's
good.
a pretty good ending point. Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on, maybe not. I was just going to touch on like willful ignorance, but I think that's something else. I think anyone that's ignorant deserves patience to an extent, and I think we shouldn't.
Yeah, we
get into it too
were
much.
going to talk about like being frustrated at people that are willfully ignorant. Like again, bringing back the same example, flat earthers. But ultimately, it's like I don't know. It's something you can let go. You can forgive it.
People that
like,
don't know to give way to people coming uphill on the road, you know, like it's just it's stuff
hasn't
that's
touched
like
a nerve. The
trivial.
driving
Nah,
thing.
not at all. Fucking people don't know. Nah, fucking.
I think yeah, it's something that can be let go, and you will find peace.
Yep.
Maybe they'll never learn. Maybe they'll still be willfully ignorant and stupid. And this does extend to like racists as well, or whatever. Whatever it is, the thing that you think is willfully stupid and ignorant, it's ultimately like they're probably not going to change through you being wrathful towards them. So let go of that anger. Don't let that poison build up in you. I think is what we're trying to say.
I know, again, here's another glib quote,
Yeah.
but be the change you want to see in the world is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah,
Because it's
I agree with that.
I can't influence anyone listening, and I can't influence you, and I don't expect to.
Yeah.
All I can do is change my own actions and the way I react to situations.
And we can try and be that voice that says, this is not,
Our
it's
own
not
voice of
abnormal to be angry.
Yeah.
It's abnormal to turn it on the wrong people.
Yeah.
And to try and be better than the animal. We are a very smart creature.
Yeah.
And we should use that for good, It's
Mhm.
fundamentally a pretty naive perspective, but
Yeah.
we're not nihilists here. I guess
Just in our free time.
this is a hobby.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I did want to have in every episode too, though, was a bit of a media chat, because I think media and culture, back to what I touched on before, is so important to me, and probably to my guests, and probably to most people in fucking human existence.
Not me.
Look at ancient scriptures and music.
I look
and
at a blank wall. for fun.
cave paintings.
I think I said cave fry, and I was like, I'm gonna go.
I almost forgot where I was going. But yeah, I guess we wanted to just talk about some stuff that's kind of covers the topic of wrath for us. And I think we're both doing songs this week, aren't we?
Yeah,
this
yeah.
week, it's gonna be weekly. It's gonna be when I feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Do you want to go first?
No, you can go first. I've fucking ranted.
I am
will try and
recommending a
derail
song
you,
everyone to go listen to. It is by a Swedish American band that fuses sort of soul, like southern, Louisiana style soul, with metal, called Zeal and Ardor. So I'm recommending you listen to Built on Ashes by Zeal and Ardor from their Stranger Fruit album. It's really, listen to it once without checking the lyrics, and then maybe look at the lyrics and listen to it again, and really think of it's got some pretty harrowing themes wrapped up in a very fun package. Musically, it's a fun song. I think it's got a really cool theme, but it's about I looked at the lyrics again. I don't want to spoil it, but I read the lyrics and was like, oh, it's about that, and it's about that aspect of conflict, and I really liked it. And it's a song that I think has some very good beats. It's a very good guitar and great swelling. And I think it's just a great song, and it really hammers home. I went through my 650 favorite songs on Spotify, and this is the one that I narrowed the list down to when thinking about wrath. So have a listen to Built on Ashes by Zeal and Ardor from Stranger Fruit. It's on Spotify, but I'm sure you can find it elsewhere as well. They're a really cool band in general.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as eloquent about it because I'm not a music nerd.
Hardly.
I think that for me, it's pretty weird, and I'm still questioning my decision. But the song for me that immediately evoked wrath was a song called "Handlebars" by Flowbots, and I'm sure everyone knows it because it was super popular in like the mid 2010s. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Watch the music video. That's what I'd suggest. It's a really, like, the animation style is really cool, if anything. There's a couple of lines in there about... it follows two people, I suppose, to explain it for you. One that follows the path of peace and love, and the other one that follows the corporate structure. And there's a couple of lines in there to me that are wrath, like... I can hand out 1 million vaccinations or let them all die in exasperation. That's one of them, and it's the ability. I know you told people to go listen to a song, but for me, I think it's just explaining it.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's that just the fucking that people where you can let people die, millions of people die, just cause it's because you're having a bad day.
It's like the duality
on the innocent, and there's another line like I can end the planet in a holocaust, and it's like, if one man has all this power, like, how does that go unchecked? Like, what if they have a bad day, or what if someone spites them or gyps them, and they feel spited or gypped, and then
it's almost flippant about it.
Yeah. It's a song that's very whimsical. Like the tune at the end is a ukulele, I'm pretty sure. Just it's a couple of bars, and it's very lighthearted, but it gets a lot deeper. And it immediately made me think of wrath. And I mean, I don't know, is it right? Is it wrong? It's probably just subjective. But that's the song to me that made me think like, wrath, but in a setting that's not...
Yeah.
It's not hatred. It's not anger. It's not like a dark, heavy song. But it's like...
It evokes those images.
It gets there, yeah. And especially if you can, go watch the music video. Flowbots Handlebars, that's my...
recommendation. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, if anyone has any further feedback for us, I would love feedback. I'm going to do a little Q&A every episode, so if you have any weird questions or stupid shit, or you just want to know stuff, feel free to ask. I mean, even if it's personal, if it's not super, like, dangerously personal, or, like, disrespectful, like...
Dangerously personal.
What colour are your pubes? I'll basically, like, go into it. I think, like, this is kind of, like, for me, like, a cathartic diary, almost, like, getting shit out there that I haven't talked about so candidly. So feedback's great, questions is great. If you have a business that's struggling due to COVID, or you want to promote something and it's super cool or weird, or you just want me to talk about it, let me know as well. Happy to do free advertising to my 3 fans. And yeah, I mean, take care of yourselves out there, and that is us on Wrath.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Jack, for being with me in your house. My house.
It's my house now, Kimasabi.